Dating has evolved at lightning speed, and what was once considered normal, meeting someone in person, chatting, and enjoying simple conversations over coffee, is now seen as old-fashioned. Join me as I dive into the chaotic world of modern dating, and see if I can survive a week without using any dating apps. Modern dating. A world full of endless possibilities, and yet, a world of utter confusion. With the rise of dating apps and social media, the rules of the game have completely shifted. Gone are the days of chance encounters, meeting through mutual friends, or serendipitous moments that lead to sparks flying. Now, it's all about swiping left or right, hoping for a match, and praying for the best. But what does it all mean? Is modern dating just a numbers game? Or is there something deeper, something more profound, hiding beneath the surface? The evolution of dating has evolved at lightning speed, and what was once considered normal, meeting someone in person, chatting, and enjoying simple conversations over coffee, is now seen as old-fashioned. We live in a digital age, where the swipe of a finger dictates the course of potential relationships. The new dating norm is swiping, matching, and hoping that the person behind the screen is anything like their profile suggests. It's a brave new world where the lines between reality and fantasy are constantly blurred, and connection feels more like a game of chance than a journey of discovery. This shift hasn't come without consequences. In many ways, modern dating has made it easier to meet people, but harder to truly connect. With so many options at our fingertips, we're bombarded with choices, and each one feels like it's just a swipe away from something better. But in this world of endless possibilities, are we actually finding what we're looking for? Or are we just endlessly searching for something that doesn't exist? The dark side of the swipe. One of the most significant shifts in modern dating is the way we approach relationships. Dating apps have changed the game, and not always for the better. These platforms have turned what was once a personal journey into a virtual marketplace, where people are reduced to profiles and profiles alone. We're constantly scrolling, swiping, matching, and then swiping some more. It's fast, it's instant, and it's easy to get caught up in the rush. But here's the problem. When you reduce someone to a few photos and a couple of sentences, how can you ever really know who they are? In a world where swiping is king, there's little room for the slow burn of real connection. But does this mean we're destined to be forever stuck in an endless loop of short-lived matches and ghosting? I think it's time we take a deeper look at the real challenges of modern dating. The ghosting epidemic. Ghosting has become an all-too-familiar term in today's dating lexicon. If you're unfamiliar with it, ghosting is when someone you're dating, or even just chatting with, suddenly cuts all communication without any explanation. One minute you're having a conversation, planning the next date, and then, poof, they're gone. No warning, no closure, just silence. It's as if the person has disappeared into thin air. As frustrating as ghosting can be, it's become so common that many of us almost expect it. And it's not just something that happens in the early stages, it can happen at any point. One moment you're having meaningful conversations and sharing personal details, and the next, you're left wondering what went wrong. Did you say something wrong? Was there something about you that didn't quite measure up? In a world where communication is instant and constant, why does ghosting still happen? And more importantly, why do we put up with it? Unrealistic expectations and the pressure to be perfect. If ghosting isn't bad enough, modern dating also brings with it a flood of unrealistic expectations. With social media's highlight reels constantly showing us the best versions of everyone's lives, it's easy to forget that nobody is perfect. Dating apps only amplify this effect. We've all seen those flawless photos, the carefully curated profiles, and the seemingly perfect personas. But here's the thing. The pressure to live up to those standards can be suffocating. We're expected to be not only attractive but also witty, adventurous, successful, and emotionally available. It's as if we have to be perfect versions of ourselves at all times, or we risk being rejected or overlooked. But what happens when we inevitably fall short of these expectations? What happens when we're not perfect, but just real? The pressure to always be available. Modern dating also brings a huge amount of pressure to always be on. We're expected to be available at the drop of a hat, to respond to messages immediately, to keep the conversation going, and to never leave anyone on read. But the reality is, that's not sustainable. Life doesn't stop because you're waiting for a text, and constant availability can create unhealthy patterns of dependence. We've created a culture where instant responses are the norm, and if you don't reply right away, you risk seeming uninterested or rude. But what happens when we break away from that pressure? What happens when we take a break from the constant buzz of notifications, take a step back, and just breathe for a moment? Do we lose our chance at finding love, or do we actually find something more important, our own sense of peace and clarity? The people behind the profiles. It's easy to forget that behind every dating app profile, there's a real person, a person with hopes, fears, desires, and insecurities. We often get so caught up in the game of matching and swiping that we forget what dating should be about: making real connections with real people. Modern dating has turned us all into profiles. We're reduced to photos, bios, and a few lines of text. Our personalities get flattened into something that can fit on a screen, and the essence of who we are gets lost in the shuffle. And when we're reduced to this simplified version of ourselves, it's easy to start comparing, to feel like we don't measure up, or to feel that the next swipe will always be someone better. But behind the profile, there's someone with a story. Someone who's struggling just like you. Someone who wants connection just as much as you do. When we start remembering that, it changes the way we date. The illusion of perfection. In the world of modern dating, we're constantly exposed to images of perfection. We see polished, edited photos of people who appear to have it all together. But here's the truth: no one is perfect. It's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to these idealized versions of others. Social media is a breeding ground for curated perfection, but it's important to remember that what you see online isn't always the full picture. When we dig beneath the surface, we see that everyone has their struggles. Everyone has insecurities. Everyone has moments of doubt and fear. And that's okay. The beauty of real relationships is that they're built on understanding, vulnerability, and authenticity, not on perfection. Personal reflection. And what I've learned as someone who's navigated the unpredictable world of modern dating, I can tell you this: it's not easy. There are highs and lows, moments of hope and moments of disappointment. But in the end, I've learned some valuable lessons along the way. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that dating isn't just about finding someone, it's about finding yourself. For the longest time, I was so focused on finding the one that I forgot to enjoy the journey. I was so obsessed with the destination that I missed out on the meaningful connections I could have had along the way. I remember going on a date with someone who seemed perfect on paper. We had so much in common: books, hiking, travel. But when we met in person, something was off. The chemistry that I thought would be there just wasn't. The conversation was awkward, and the connection felt forced. It was a tough lesson to learn, but it reminded me that chemistry can't be manufactured. You can't force a connection to happen. Embracing the chaos. So, is modern dating a disaster? Not at all. It's a reflection of the world we live in today, a world that's constantly changing, evolving, and adapting. It's a chance to redefine love, relationships, and what it means to truly connect with someone. At the end of the day, modern dating isn't just about finding someone else, it's about finding yourself. It's about understanding your values, your boundaries, and your purpose. It's about embracing the chaos, the uncertainty, and the beauty of it all. So, what's your take on modern dating? Have you had any crazy experiences, horror stories, or moments of triumph? Let me know in the comments below, and let's continue this conversation. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insights on relationships, and let's navigate this crazy world of modern dating together.